top 4.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Anywhere from 1 through 4. One of them is going to be 1.
Which quarterback do you have at the top?
Between Carson Beck and Shedeur Sanders, Granny.
They may start believing me when I start talking about those two going in the top 5 picks, right?
We're only 1 week into the college football season, and there's already controversy being stirred by Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes. And I guess this kind of piggybacks on a video that I made on the Colorado Buffaloes about 6 months ago, and it's something that we're going to be keeping an eye on all season long. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications because we are on the grind to 1 million subscribers. And now that we get all that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, the wait is finally over. Football season is back, and to celebrate the return of football, we're getting 2 free squares from Prize Picks, meaning you only need to pick 1 player's stats correctly in order to 3x your money, or if you want to get crazy and pick 2 player stats correctly, you could 5x your money. Now, if you aren't signed up for Prize Picks and you're good at projecting player stats in sports, then I highly recommend you download the app. I even have a promo code for you to get $50 when you make an entry of $5 or more, and that promo code is Mikerophone. Caleb Williams just needs 1 passing yard in his debut for his square to cash. Now, I'll give you my picks for week 1 on my Instagram at @TheFlightMike, where I post my free picks daily. And if you haven't signed up for Prize Picks, I highly recommend it. It's a great way to get some action in these games. And between us, they really aren't good at making lines in the beginning of the season. Use my promo code Mikerophone and get $50 when you make an entry of $5 or more. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? One of my favorite things to do throughout the season is look at way too early mock drafts for the 2025 NFL draft and monitor how these players boost their draft stock and lower their draft stock throughout the year. For example, if you looked at one such mock draft last year, it would say Caleb Williams was going to be the undisputed, bona fide #1 overall pick in the NFL draft. And then maybe you would see Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 2. Jaden Daniels was nowhere to be found in the top 5 last year at this point in time, but that's what makes things so exciting and so interesting. And right now, if you were to look at one such mock draft, you'll get a bit of a dose of reality as to who the top picks would be. And this is subject to change considering the fact that this is really early in the college football season. I mean, in some cases, if you go to CBS Sports, you'll see the #1 overall pick this year is very likely to be James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. The second pick is to be Michael Williams out of Georgia, and the top quarterback off the board is to be Quinn Ewers. If you scroll all the way down, you'll eventually see Shedeur Sanders at number 6, and you'll see Travis Hunter at number 11. However, if you go to the legendary Walter Footballs page, you'll see the #1 overall pick in this year's NFL draft is likely to be Shedeur Sanders, taken by Las Vegas, with Travis Hunter being selected number 4 overall by the Carolina Panthers as a cornerback.
As you look at this class right now, which quarterback do you have at the top?
Between Carson Beck and Shedeur Sanders, Granny. Sanders, 15 quarterbacks were rated ahead of Shedeur coming out of high school. He goes to Jackson State with his dad. Now he's at Colorado. They're a 7-point underdog at Lincoln against a much improved Nebraska Cornhusker team Saturday night. That game's important in the evaluation process, but his toughness, Granny, he held up last year, got injured late with an offensive line that was awful. That offensive line improves. Shedeur Sanders will be right there with Carson Beck, vying for that top spot at that QB1 spot going into the draft.
Now, obviously, what determines a player's rise and fall is how well they play throughout the season. If you go all the way back to the 2019 season, at the very beginning of the season, Joe Burrow was on nobody's radar, and at the conclusion of the season, nobody disputed it. Joe Burrow was to become the #1 overall pick in the 2020 NFL draft. But recently, things have changed significantly. I mean, if you go all the way back to last year, Caleb Williams and his camp was trying to seek equity in whatever team was to select him with the #1 overall pick. Something that sounds absolutely insane considering that it's Caleb Williams and he has this reputation of being a bit of a diva, and at the same time, very entrepreneurial, and you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. The reason for this is NIL completely changed the landscape of college football. Players now have brands, and players are significantly more entrepreneurial than they have been in years past. I mean, look no further than the Marvin Harrison Jr. situation with Fanatics. Marvin Harrison Jr. refused to sign a contract with Fanatics when he was in the earlier part of his college career, which essentially would have allowed Fanatics to sell his merchandise at a huge discount because Marvin Harrison Jr. was signing away his likeness way too early before he became a household name. Marvin Harrison Jr. opted not to sign said contract, and as a result, there's a huge situation between him and Fanatics. We have a whole update video on that. We'll leave it in the end screen for you. But in the case of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, there's a huge question mark. You see, the Colorado Buffaloes showed off why they were one of the most exciting yet controversial teams in all of college sports versus North Dakota State University. I know what you guys might be thinking.
Mike, they barely were able to beat North Dakota State. Colorado's terrible.
Well, if you take a look at NDSU's record over the last decade, they were 149-12. In my opinion, NDSU has the potential to beat a lot of Power 5s, and the fact that this game was so electric and got to the point that it did made it all the more entertaining for us to watch. But the main individual that stole the show was none other than Travis Hunter. Against North Dakota State, Travis Hunter played nearly 70 defensive snaps and allowed just 3 receptions for 18 yards. And this was when he was on the defensive side of the ball. While on the offensive side of the ball, he hauled in 7 receptions for 155 yards and 3 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns actually went viral as it was the game-winning reception, but if you pay attention to the play, Travis Hunter makes this reception while the defensive back is shoving his face and body to the ground, and it resulted in a lot of fans speculating what the draft stock of Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders could be. Going into the season, many people assumed that Shedeur Sanders would be the bona fide #1 overall pick, and to be honest, it's not the craziest take to suggest such a thing. Shedeur Sanders is very well connected. One of his mentors is Tom Brady.
One question before I go, Tom, do you think a college kid needs a Phantom, like a Rolls Royce?
Nah, hey, no, it's not a Phantom. It's a Rolls Royce Cullinan.
I think he needs to get in the film room and spend as much time in there as possible.
Thank you,
less
Tom.
time in the car and more time in the film room.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate
And
that.
I seen you have one too, Tom. Don't think I seen.
I was just a rental. Hey, I had a few bucks in my pocket at that point. I think some car stores when we're together next time.
So far, my analysis of Shedeur Sanders is he possesses a NFL caliber arm. He throws the football with tremendous velocity. His throwing mechanics are sound. He showed an ability to switch plays before the snap. He's great at manipulating safeties and is able to work through his progressions relatively quickly. Now, while his arm talent is good, it's not necessarily Patrick Mahomes-esque or Matthew Stafford-esque arm talent. He doesn't have elite speed and takes a lot of unnecessary sacks. Even more so, he'll be 23 years old at the start of his first NFL season, which doesn't really make him the Caleb Williams-like can't-miss prospect. Now, why am I bringing all of this up? It's not to hate on Shedeur Sanders at all whatsoever, because I love the swagger that he brings to football. I love the fact that Colorado is an interesting storyline to consistently follow. But if you guys remember, all the way back in March, Deion Sanders gave us a bit of a warning.
Top 4.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Anywhere from 1 through 4. One of them is going to be 1.
That's what I'm talking about.
One of them is going to be
Speak it
1.
into existence.
And the latter one would not go behind 4. All this is subjective because I know where I kind of want them to go.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget Shallow, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I know where I want them to go. So there's certain cities that ain't going to happen.
Okay, you on point.
It's going to be it's going to be an Eli.
So he literally said he is going to pull a Eli Manning if Travis Hunter doesn't land in a preferred destination in the 2025 NFL draft. I love how this is called pulling an Eli Manning because the first man to reject the team that wanted to draft him was John Elway. And I don't necessarily blame any player for refusing to go to a specific team, because when you take a look at some of the careers in the NFL, if you get selected to the wrong team, then there's no question about it, you're toast. I mean, I don't think Jordan Love would be Jordan Love if he wasn't drafted by the Green Bay Packers, sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 seasons, and then eventually took over the reins by the Packers. I mean, they literally put him in a situation to make him the highest paid QB in the NFL. I don't think Mac Jones would be the backup of the Jacksonville Jaguars if he didn't go to a team that literally had 3 receivers that were in the bottom 10 for route separation, with one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, and who at some point have Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator. So while this may be deemed as very dramatic and very diva-like, I wouldn't blame a player for refusing to go to a team that could potentially ruin his career. Eli Manning even commented on this saying, "I love me some Deion." But what was really interesting about this is Shedeur Sanders once again doubled down on this very shortly after Colorado defeated North Dakota State.
They got their own little thing going on. I ain't mad at it because it works, but they got their own thing, and it's just a certain chemistry that they have where Shedeur's he's gonna place that ball. If that guy's right beside him, he's gonna place that ball. First of all, it ain't no 50-50 ball with Travis. If the ball's up close, it's his ball. So he's that kind of athlete, and shoot, Jimmy went for $198. Yeah. Oh my God! Why didn't you guys tell me? We could have got him 2 more yards.
My bad.
Wow, awesome. That's awesome. Wow, 26. Oh wow, wow. That was a game, huh? They may start believing me when I start talking about those 2 going in the top 5 picks, right?
What's really comical about this to me is Colorado's next opponent could potentially make or break their season. They're going up against Matt Rule in Nebraska, and Matt Rule happens to be coaching Patrick Mahomes. I mean, no, seriously. I mean, look at Dylan Raiola. The guy wears the number 15, apparently for Tim Tebow, but his gear looks like Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes calls him his cousin. He has the arm strength of Patrick Mahomes. He walks like Patrick Mahomes. His hair is like Patrick Mahomes. I'm not actually saying he's the next coming of Patrick Mahomes, but it's almost as if this man went to Patrick Mahomes, copied all of his appearance and his attributes, and applied it to himself, which I could get behind. But doubling down on this right in the beginning of the season, before you even know if Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders would be top 4 picks, is insane to me. Because in my opinion, there are no 2 players in the entire NFL draft that have a more volatile draft stock than Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. Now, I want to make it abundantly clear, I'm not saying that Travis Hunter is a terrible player. As a matter of fact, what Travis Hunter is doing is something that we haven't seen since the days of Shedeur Sanders. A true Iron Man in football, a player that dominates as a wide receiver and a cornerback. But the problem is we've seen players like this before in NFL history. We've seen players get drafted because of their versatility. And oftentimes versatility doesn't really translate to the NFL. I mean, take a look at Tavon Austin. You've all seen that viral college football mixtape of Tavon Austin. He was drafted to the Los Angeles Rams, who were, well, the St. Louis Rams at the time, who weren't able to accurately leverage his skill set. Sad thing is I feel like if Tavon Austin played in today's NFL, it'd be a different story. The same could be said about Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush had a great career, had a Super Bowl, but wasn't the game-changing talent that he was supposed to be. The same could be said about Isaiah Simmons. This is an individual that played the linebacker position, but was said to be able to play multiple positions on defense. Obviously, he got injured, but he eventually became a colossal bust. And I'm not saying that these players were terrible coming into the NFL, but I do believe that since these players didn't get placed in the right situation with a coordinator that knows how to use their talents, I think as a result of that, Shedeur Sanders is saying what he's saying about Travis Hunter. And I think the epitome of an example of a player that had tremendous versatility that was used correctly is none other than Micah Parsons. Now, I know what you guys are going to say.
Mike, you're being a delusional Cowboy fan again. Oh my God, Micah Parsons isn't that good.
Listen, all I'm saying is there's very few players in the NFL that came into the NFL, played a particular position in the NFL, and then all of a sudden have their defensive coordinator moving them all around different positions on the defensive line and in various linebacker positions. Micah Parsons could play multiple positions on defense, and that versatility is something that is very rare in the NFL. But it's 100% because Dan Quinn knew exactly what to do with Micah Parsons. And from that perspective, I could understand why Shedeur Sanders would want to make sure Travis Hunter falls into the correct spot for his talents. I personally don't think Travis Hunter will be selected number 1 overall based off of the fact that he could play 2 positions. I think he's incredibly talented, but that type of versatility isn't what typically gets you selected number 1 overall. However, I do hope he lands in a situation with a football genius that knows how to use his offensive and defensive skill set. Do I think it's it's cocky of Deion Sanders to say this about Travis Hunter this early on? Most definitely, because there's a whole season to be played, and for all you know, Travis Hunter could fall in the late first round, not only depending on his skill set, but also depending on how strong the rest of the draft class is. Selecting a wide receiver that could play the cornerback position is more of a luxury pick, in my opinion. Before that, you want to select a quarterback, individual that protects the quarterback, the individual that rushes the quarterback, and the individual that the quarterback throws to, which could be Travis Hunter, and then the individual that defends the quarterback's passes, which could also be Travis Hunter. So it is very much a luxury pick, but I really hope he falls into the right situation. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about what Deion Sanders said? Do you think he's already causing unnecessary drama, or do you agree with what he said? I personally think that he should have said this later in the year, but it wouldn't surprise me if he does so anyway. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. I've been listening to your comments saying you want more college football content, so we're going to be bringing you plenty of more college football throughout the season. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.